What's up guys, this is Project and welcome back to another build video, this being another spear build to replace the last spear build I made, as I think this one is overall better. It centers around a mechanic that I see people seldom use, and that is poison. For this mechanic to be somewhat worth it, we need the coiled snake Kabuto, which when divine in max familiarity gives us a near 30% extra close combat attack against poison enemies. To obtain this helmet, you'll need to defeat the developer revenant in the Defiled Castle mission. The revenant grave will be in the big room where the Oni demons are at. Just follow the path in the video as it's pretty straightforward. The revenant's name is Tornoshin the Dilettante. Pretty epic if you ask me. Now, the grave will spawn with random rarities on its gear, or for its gear I guess. Most of the time being blue and yellow rarities, with sometimes a purple popping up here and there. Most of the time he will usually drop the helmet, however, the trick is to getting him to drop a divine version of it, as this is the only way to obtain the helmet. So through testing I found out that you can't really reset the grave by praying at the shrine, so the only way to reset the grave is by quitting the mission through a Himorogi branch or fragment, and then going back into the mission and then looking at the grave, see if he has a divine helmet. If he doesn't, repeat the same steps until he appears with the divine helmet, and then you can finally get your divine coiled snake Kabuto. Now, I won't lie to you and say that poison actually works reliably. It doesn't, at least against a handful of bosses, and for those it does work on, it usually takes quite a few poison shurikens to apply, which is our main way of applying poison, as the alternatives are just bad. So unless you really want to, I don't really recommend going the poison route. Instead, here are a couple of alternatives. The first being the Red Demon Helmet, as it offers 20% increased damage for the skill Spearfall. The second helmet, if you have it, is a Sonata Helmet, as it gives Final Blow 19% when you have a Divine Helmet and Max Familiarity. And I use this in my Marabashi farming video for more final blow damage. And the last setup is replacing the helmet and sword with Warrior of the West to gain the 4-piece bonus because of Yasakani, which grants a 3.7% increased close combat damage over the full Kingo's I wear. Which, speaking of, I decided on Kingo since it was the strongest set that freed the helmet slot up. Now for our main spear, we still use Oni Sakon spear for the 30% tornado damage increase. So if you're switching over from the wind elemental spear build that I made last time, you don't have to change your weapon at all. Try to replicate the stats you see here. You can go for close combat damage 20% over familiarity, but FAM A+ is much easier to roll than a perfect close combat damage 20%. Now for accessories, things get a bit interesting if you do plan to try out poison, because you can actually roll close combat attack when an enemy is poisoned on your accessories, with the max being 25%. The problem comes in finding Yasakani with that, and or finding another charm that has yokai close combat damage and close combat attack when an enemy is poisoned. As like I said, you don't really generally poison things often, so you really don't want to lose that yokai close combat damage, as that's universal. So I spent about 2 hours trying to find something with that, but I could not find it. So just a heat of warning, it might take a while if you do plan to go balls deep into poison. And here are my stats. I'm level 220. I stopped leveling because I know people are complaining, yo, you're high level. 220 is not high level at all, man. And level doesn't really factor into the damage output you can do for the most part. I cleared everything at level 155 and +7, and that was for the new missions, which are the hardest missions basically. So again, level doesn't matter, and you can even save points if you don't plan to do the poison gimmick. So the only requirements are 17 stamina, 27 strength, 25 spirit, 14 dex, and around 20 magic, and then the rest you pump into body for damage scaling. So again, you don't need a high level. I haven't tested 99 dexterity for the poison thing, but I doubt it actually makes it that much better than 51. And moving on to skills, the most boring part of the video for me. We have Awakening, cast magic immediately. We have Sloth, you don't have to get it. It's actually nerfed, I think, for the new levels anyways, against the new bosses. We have Incantation Mastery, so we can have as much magic as possible. We have this, which doesn't matter. I do recommend getting 2 Guardian Spirit Talismans, as you saw in the video, for Daibawashi, so you can spam that and kill Hanzo and Okatsu very easily. And then we have Extraction Talisman for Tengen, so we can activate its buff. And then we have Carnage, because Carnage is still pretty good when you use Tengen or Karajishi, because it doesn't get a nerf like Power Pill does in comparison when you use those spirits. Alternatively, you can also use Kekai Talisman instead of Sloth, or put more into magic, so you can equip Kekais, which allow you to have fast recovery and nullify yokai realms. And then for ninja stuff, we have Shuriken Shooter, so we can shoot shurikens a little bit faster. Honestly, they're still too slow. We have Enlightenment, so we can cast our ninjutsu immediately. Blister Beetle powders suck. The powder range, the cloud range or whatever, is too small, and the enemies can just step out 2 feet and they'll be out of the gas, so they won't be able to poison. So I do not recommend that. Galna Broth, again, like I said, it's not really helpful. I barely poison anything with this before killing them, which is why I like to poison shuriken things first. That way I can get sweeter numbers, I guess, that pop up. But poison shuriken is your main 2 for poisoning anything. Now we get Tiger Running, as always, so we can run fast. We have 3 quick change, so we can prevent dying 3 times. We have Sneak Attack, so we can sneak on people like ninjas. And we have Ninja Tool Mastery, so we can equip as much ninjutsu as possible, and Medicine Man for more elixirs. Now, a method that came to mind that I haven't tested is Smoke Ball and Blister Beetle powders. You would throw a Blister Beetle at the boss or whatever, then you use a Smoke Ball immediately, and apparently they would just stand there and then get poisoned, probably. You'd have to test that. I'm pretty much done with the build, so I'm not going to go further into that. For Kusarigama, we get the passives as much as we can get. A lot of stuff was nerfed in the new patch, such as our lovely cornered boar is now 20% damage reduction when in critical instead of the 40% it was prior to patch 1.06. Really heavy nerf there, honestly, but I still recommend it. Corner Tiger is useless now. Don't even touch it. It sucks. For Spear, we got as much skills as we can. We got a little bit of grapple action. It's kind of useless. We got Flux. We got Tornado, of course, is our main damage dealer against yokai bosses. When we get behind them, just spam that. Piercing Rain, never use that. Use it to get Spear Fall, so we can knock humans down. Then we have Rule of Thrusting for more thrust damage. I have Fluidity because I'm lazy to do the little spear stance change trick that I showed in the Wind Elemental Spear video. We got Water Wheel for more diversity, for mid stance. We got Twirl, which is a new move I'm adding. Really helpful for the new mission, Return of the Gourd. This is a parry. Allows you to do a final blow, but basically you would parry Yasuke or Oda, because Entangle, you can't entangle them and trip them when they're buffed, when they have their buffs up. So Twirl is a nice replacement for that in that mission. It makes things easier. And then last but not least, we have Flying Monkey for some good old drop down fun. For dual swords, we got Tai Chi Arts, and for sword, we got a Relentless and Indomitable Spirit for some extra key stuff. And for our Guardian Spirit, of course, we use Best Bird, Tenjin, Kujaku because of its effect right here. When you earn Amrita in a certain stance, you gain a buff. In high stance, you gain an attack buff. And low stance, you gain a key recovery speed buff. And in mid stance, you gain a defense buff. So we mainly use the high stance buff because it gives us 45% attack buff. We have yokai damage reduction. We have extend elemental effect by 60% and some elemental attack damage, which is useless for poison. And for our clan, we use Matsunaga because it gives close combat attack against strong enemies, which I always assume is bigger yokai and bosses. So that's my attempt at a poison build. Make sure to read the video description for more details on the build. I'd like to take a moment and thank you guys for the support. Almost 3,000 subscribers now. Super appreciative of the support. Lets me know you guys are still interested in Nioh videos, so thank you guys so much. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, comment down below with any questions, and subscribe for more
Nioh Epic.